Hello, everybody. This is Noah and John, and we are with UrbanDigs. And Johnny, today we are talking Manhattan, and we got a good one today. We have Daniel Kramp, licensed broker for over 20 years in Connecticut, in New York City, team of 5, top 100 in New York City. This guy's been doing a lot of deals left and right. He knows what's going on with the nuances of the market. Smart guy, very smart guy. We're going to talk about some very... Yeah, you'll be all right. You're going to be all right, Daniel. We're going to talk about some interesting topics, a little different than normal talking Manhattan, John, but I'm excited, and we're going to get started. So, Daniel, I'm just going to jump right into it. First off, thank you for joining us. But second, more importantly, what do you see that's going on in the state of the New York City real estate market today?
Well, it's interesting. I think there's a big disconnect in different neighborhoods, and it's so segmented. Give you an example. There's disconnect between buyers who are serious about actually needing to move, like 3-bedroom and 4-bedroom families who need more space and are looking at this bidding wars in that segment, and buyers who are casually browsing for a 1-bedroom or pied-à-terre, and is like in that market is a little bit slow. Or you can compare Midtown to Brooklyn Heights. Brooklyn Heights is bidding wars. Every single thing that goes in a week. Midtown, I think average day on the market, you will know better because you know the data. It's like 100 days, right? So it's very, very, there's like many different markets within New York City and Brooklyn, and even within neighborhoods of Brooklyn Heights versus Williamsburg or Bushwick and whatnot. So you really have to be in the market to understand what's happening in each segment. It can't just be said, oh, it's slow or it's fast. It's, contracts are up or down. I'm a big believer that averages don't really say the full story. You really have to zero in on that price segment, whether it's luxury. Like luxury has crazy stuff going on, right? Pied-à-terre tax, this and that, and look at the numbers. They haven't changed. People are still spending money, a lot of money. I think the stats were we had the same amount of sales in the past 4 weeks as the year ago, over $10 million. If you look at Donna Olshan's report, which kind of tells you that there's a lot of noise, but people who are spending money and are smart and are wealthy investors aren't really affected by the noise. They kind of look at the longevity of the assets they're buying, if it's a good building, if it's a good investment for long term, and aren't really scared by the headline that suddenly Mamdani wants to tax everyone who's too rich to be in the city.
Yeah, it's a great point. But you mentioned the disconnect, and I wonder if I could just dig into that for a minute.
Sure.
And I'm just curious, Dana, from your point of view, what's driving that? Is it a psychology thing? Is it an inventory thing? Affordability thing?
Both.
What, in your view, is sort of driving this whole disconnect?
I think it's an inventory thing, because I think statistically we just have more 1-bedrooms than say 3-bedrooms or 4-bedrooms, right? So there's less inventory for that sector. There is a need to move. I don't know any buyer who needs to have or needs to buy a 1-bedroom. Like very few need. Some want, right? Because they're renting, they may want to buy a 1-bedroom. I know a lot of buyers who own a 2-bedroom and need a 3-bedroom, right? So they have a need. So that's different. That drives the market. That drives the demand. And then it's also price points, right? If you're looking today at Midtown under $1 million, there's so much. Like there's so much to choose from too. Like that market is kind of, if you're first-time buyer, you're financing, you really are sensitive to whether the rate is 5 or 6 because it's a lot of money in this price point. If you're buying a $4 million apartment, you're financing 50%. In the scheme of things, like I don't really care if it's 5.5 or 5. I need to move, and I will refinance down the road. And but buyers also, I can also tell you, buyers aren't dumb. Like you can't just put a pretty apartment on the market and hope that somebody buys it just because there's only one. In my experience, buyers walk in, they love something, they fall in love, then they go home and do their math, do their homework, and they see that you're disconnected from the reality. They're not going to make an offer. So that's a disconnect. I think that it's segments of who needs and who wants to buy, and inventory and supply and demand. I think that's a basic for every economy.
Yeah, I just want to say I like your point about the buyers, and I think this is one of the many misunderstood facts about the market in general, which is that you have to understand that a lot of times the buyers know more about this market than you as a professional do and your seller does, because they've seen everything for the last year in their price point. They've been on it, and they feel like the back of their hand is Yeah, well, that's true, but I think it's an amazing point that I think a lot of people forget about is how savvy buyers are. And even if they don't necessarily know the exact metrics or how a renovation adjustment works or what one building might be the others, they have an innate sense of value. And I wonder if you could just speak to that.
Well, I think it's not even about sense of values. A lot of buyers feel empowered by the tools today, like ChatGPT and Claude, right? And I know it's not a topic to talk about it, but I can tell you a lot of buyers just start throwing analysis at me that they got from Claude or ChatGPT. And if you're a broker who doesn't know, is not in the know of what's happening in that open house and the psychology behind what's happening with that seller, what's happening in that segment of the market, you can compete with just math. Because, somebody said today, I heard it, if Claude negotiated against ChatGPT, they'll probably have a deal based on pure numbers. But that's not reality. We negotiate buyers versus sellers. Everyone has different things. If you're a broker representing buyer or seller, if you don't understand the emotional intelligence behind what's going on, what are the buyer needs? Do they need to move? Is it the school year? Do they need to be somewhere in a certain school zone? And you just go solely based on comps and data, you're not really providing value. Also, if you're not understanding what's happening in the market today, not what happened 3 months ago, because data is there and buyers have it. Buyers have access to that. They can look at the numbers. They can put the number ChatGPT and say, hey, tell me what this should sell for based on comps, which is beautiful. But if you don't know that today's market is different than yesterday's market because of ABC, and you're a broker who really stays in touch with what's happening, you don't have value. So buyers are not dumb. They are savvy, and you need to be savvier. You need to know what's happening.
Yeah, I want to stay on this topic just a bit because I think it's a dynamic that's growing and it makes all the sense in the world, right? I mean, if I was a buyer and I'm going to spend $1 million or $2 million on in this new world of AI, I'm going to go and say, hey, what is this worth? Tell me what this is. I mean, it's just natural curiosity. And look, I've been down my AI psychosis, period. I don't know. Right. I feel like everyone goes through their AI psychosis period. It's first it's extremely empowering. Like you feel like God almost. And then you realize that there's some hallucinations and there's some mistakes and it gratifies you a lot. And then when you call out mistakes, it'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. Let me just do that over again, so to speak. But we believe it. We believe it as fact, even though it says right underneath there, it is AI and it could make mistakes. Please double check everything. I wish I could do that, by the way. But in this day and age of buyers or sellers going and doing this, I could imagine how hard it might be for an agent because now you got that seed in the head of the buyer that it's worth X or the seller that it's going to sell at Y because ChatGPT said so. And who knows how you conversed with it, right? So
you have to know.
How do you overcome that, basically?
You have to be more educated about the state of the markets. Don't forget, ChatGPT and Claude or whatever, Perplexity, they all give you answer based on historic data, right? What has closed 3 months ago? What has closed 2 months ago? They don't know what's happening today, right? You should, as a broker, because you're at the open houses, you're with your buyers, you talk to agents, you know how many offers they have, you know what things are in contract for, because that's not public info. Like I can tell you, there's an apartment in Brooklyn Heights, 2 blocks away from me, that's listed for 1.3. If you look at it as a comp, oh, that's in contract, 1.3, that therefore I should bid 1.3 on one next door. But in reality, it's 7 offers that's in the contract for 1.6. I know it, ChatGPT doesn't. So you have to know, and that if you use that data and apply it to comp, suddenly you have a different picture. And I can give you so many examples. My client sending me, Claude analysis for an apartment they were bidding on Upper West Side. There was an estate, and the description said first time on the market in 40 years. And Claude said something very, smart. Oh, based on the fact that they were not on the market 40 years, the seller probably is less sensitive to price, so you should offer slightly below asking price. But it doesn't know that they have 3 offers from families who want to be in that school zone, and guess what it sold for? $400K over what Claude told them it's worth. And I'm lucky I have clients who are smart enough to ask me for advice and send me, hey, but Claude says this, what do you think about it? And we can have a conversation how I think it's either wrong or somewhat right, or what we can use. Because I want to think that I know a little bit more because I'm in the market. I know the emotional intelligence behind it. And also, you can just rely on data to make an offer. If I know my clients need to move because they're pregnant, right, and they're due in 2 months, and ChatGPT tells them, well, make an offer below because that's what the number says. But I know there's nothing else on the market. And for them, in the long term, extra 50K is not going to make a difference. What will make a difference is being in a home when the baby is born. So that's the advice. Like, you want to get it? That's what it's going to cost. Are you slightly overpaying? Probably. Is it going to matter in 10 years?
Right.
Are you better off?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Danny. I feel like it's an interesting balance between consumers feeling better prepared and more convinced that they already know the answer. So it's always, that it's that confidence booster that I think Noah talked about, that, oh, well, I can be able to bid, your example about the 1.3 comp. They're very convinced that they can bid on that. They're very prepared because the GPT is giving them that data, but it's missing that context that the agent has. And that leads me to my question, which is, Daniel, how are you using AI to adapt in this new world?
To help me run through data. Because I can tell you, what took me an hour putting an Excel spreadsheet together to analyze comps now takes 5 minutes. I will do the comps, I'll choose them, and I'll run it through AI and say, hey, show me the pattern. So I can understand historical patterns a little bit, right? And then I can apply my knowledge to give my clients better advice. So, it definitely speeds up. It makes me more efficient, for sure. And then I can usually spend the time to actually advise my clients what's best for them. So we use it a lot, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, for all the formulas, all the calculations. Just dump all the comps in there that I chose. I know what comps are correct, and I adjust them. Okay, this is in contract for higher price. Adjust for that. Now tell me the patterns, right? What do you see? And I can give you examples. Like, we were analyzing an offer for Brooklyn Heights and ran the data, and we noticed that I think it was a 2-bedroom market, certain price category, everything in the past month sold about 10% over. So I'm like, okay, so I can predict that the next one's probably going to sell 10% over, right? And what used to take me an hour to put it in Excel and calculate, and this now takes like a minute. So that's one way. And the other way just makes me more efficient when it comes to sorting through emails and finding things. Like, I can just tell my superhuman AI email to say, hey, send an email to Noah and John to say I'm happy to do the interview, and it takes a second, which used to take me like, let me type it out. So efficiency.
Yeah, it's an empowering world. It really is. There's a lot of potential going on over here, and it's quite exciting in the data analytics space.
You can't lose your brain. You can't just let it think for you.
No, that's where you run into problems.
Right.
That's where you run into problems. See, what you said right before was, like, I pick the comps myself. I go through all this information. I take my knowledge, my wisdom, and I apply it, and then I use this as an amplifier to optimize my output. Exactly. That's exactly how you should be using it. It's your know-how and your IP that makes you the great broker to give out that advisorship, that wisdom. That's how you adapt in this day and age. Interesting. We're going to definitely be doing a lot of subjects on AI as the technology becomes more widely used in this industry. So thank you for chiming in on that from both the consumer and on the agent side. I want to go into the next question, Daniel. There is a misperception. A lot of agents are just TikTok, Instagram, X, whatever, LinkedIn, and they look for views. How many views did I get on this? How many people shared it? How many followers do I have? I got 3,000 followers, 40,000.
I have an unpopular opinion on that, probably, because I think they do. I don't think there's a correlation between how many views you get to actually whether I can bring the right buyer for my client.
So I asked a question: Is there a correlation between views and followers and engagement and providing more value and service for your clients?
Listen, I'm sure there's a benefit and better exposure, but a lot of brokers use that tool as the only tool to promote themselves, to get followers, get likes, get things. I don't know if it actually helps them sell. It helps them become famous and get sponsorships from brands, right? But I don't know, maybe except for like Ryan Serhant, who has a big following, it actually helps them sell their property. So having 1 million followers doesn't necessarily making you a better broker and giving you ability to bring the right buyer to the seller. And I have clients who've told me specifically, I don't care about you doing a TikTok video with 1 million views for my $20 million townhouse. I care about you bringing the right wealthy person to buy, right? And I can give you plenty of examples of top agents in the city who have like 5 followers, right? Or 10 followers, and they don't care. Without naming names, the top Quirkham brokers, top Sotheby's brokers who do a lot of volume based on just relationship. And on the other spectrum, there's a lot of bunch of agents who like chase likes and chase the views and go around and do videos, and they sell themselves. Oh, we are the most followed brand in the world. That's why I'm going to sell your apartment better. Are you? Are you a good broker? Like that's the thing. Are you providing value to your client, or are you just chasing likes? So again, it's a subject that I try to do videos just to, it's fun. I try to play. Am I chasing it as my core business? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Serhant is just an outlier. I mean, he's got both things covered,
Right.
I know Ryan.
A lot to be said about exposure and this and that, but I don't really think there's a correlation between one. I'll give you an example. I had actually a good example. I did a video on this property we had in New Jersey that I just went to visit through Christie's a couple of years ago. It went viral. I had like 400,000 views. I didn't sell it. Somebody else did, because they had a buyer, right? It made me somewhat famous because I posted it, and it still has like 500,000 views, and it's went viral because it was a crazy house in New Jersey built for like $25 million in Parisian style, whatnot. So it was fun. Did I get one single lead from it? No.
Wow.
No one serious.
So it's. Sorry, go ahead, Noah.
No, I was just gonna say that if it's not followers and it's traffic, like what do you, in your mind, not to put you on a spot, Daniel, but like what do buyers and sellers truly want from their agent?
Being a trusted advisor. I teach my agents and I train myself. You have to be an advisor. You're not just giving them comps or opening doors or getting likes on videos for their property. You have to advise them on understand their goals, understand what they want, know more than they do, and advise them what's the best thing for them. It could be you have to make an offer higher than asking, or it could be you shouldn't buy today, you shouldn't buy in a year. That should be the advice, right? And it served really well me personally and my agents. You have to be an advisor, you have to know more, and you have to really, truly have their best interest in heart. And I've had cases of dear clients for decades, and the first interaction I had with them 10 years ago, I won't forget it, was when they saw an apartment after we worked together. They saw an apartment without me through an off market from a developer, and they came to me and say, Daniel, what do you think? Should we buy it? You are not involved. And I told them, the answer I'm going to give you is going to cost me $300,000 because that's a $9 million apartment. I'm going to tell you should buy it. And they did. And they became one of the best clients for life. I made no money in the first transaction, and it was okay. Because I was truly honest with them, because I knew it's good for them, and I told them my advice.
I think that's a fantastic example, because I mean, you think about the social media aspect, and I think the problem is that it confuses popularity with competence. And what you're talking about is offline skills that don't necessarily show up in the follower details, or the follower accounts, but actually win the deals and create that client for lifetime. And I was wondering if there are any other sort of like hard skills that you think are things that aren't necessarily going to show up in social media, but you just absolutely have to have to get to win deals.
You have to be savvy. You have to be, you have to know what you're doing. It's like, not to call myself smart, but you have to understand dynamics of the comps and the market, and you have to understand how buyers think, the psychology of sellers. You have to know how to solve problems. That's what we do all day, solve challenges from how fast can we do the staging, or how fast can we close, what needs to go in a contract to make sure everyone is happy. Little nuances. So you have to almost like have your hands in so many different places and be good at it, right? The multitask. And you always have to learn. Like you have to constantly be more informed than your clients, and that means you have to. If you're bored, you should go to visit open houses and preview. You should know the market. You should talk to agents. You should visit properties. When you're doing deals, it's easier to stay in touch because you know what's happening in this and that, because you're negotiating one deal. I'm lucky I have a team. We have a lot of deals going on, so I can kind of tell you what's happening on a daily basis in Brooklyn Heights or Upper West Side, and 3-bedroom market, 4-bedroom market, and whatnot, because I see the traffic. But if you're a new agent, you don't have a team, you don't have 10 deals going on, you have to kind of force yourself to go and be involved, whether it be in an office and listening to other agents negotiating, or visiting open houses, seeing how much traffic they have, right? If you go to open house tomorrow in Brooklyn Heights for 3-bedroom, and you've never sold in Brooklyn Heights a 3-bedroom, just go stand in open house, go visit, see how many people sign in, see how many people coming in, right? You get a better understanding. Okay, it's a popular segment, right? You get slightly, and then you will get an email from that agent, whether they're going best and highest or not, because you were part of the group who came to see it. You start learning by being in the business, and then you take that knowledge and translate it to advice to your clients. So you have to know more. That's all. You have to always.
It seems like product knowledge seems it's just constantly. It's just on the
and read reports. Whatever reports you guys put out, I read reports I put reports out every Monday. I read reports every Monday. I know the numbers that were up. There was 233 signed contracts this week in Manhattan. Just random stat, right? Why I know it? Because we wrote the report. It was slightly up.
It gives you a pulse of the market. It allows you to answer these questions subconsciously because you know it. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that reminds me of a long time ago, Esther Mueller. Remember Esther? I mean, that was her big thing. She would come in, she'd be like, if you're not reading the Wall Street Journal and New York Times real estate every week, there's something wrong with you. You have to have your finger on the pulse of this market and read every possible thing you can. Such a great tip.
Yeah.
This has been great. All right, I got one last question. I mean, you might have answered this question in what you were saying just before, but I always ask this question at the end of these segments. And it's a productivity, it's a success, it's a strategic tip type of thing, but you got to pick just one. If you were to go back in time and visit your younger self, knowing everything you know, and you were just starting out in this industry, what is one thing that you would tell yourself to get an edge, to maybe be more successful quicker or whatever?
I actually haven't mentioned that. And my dog is bored. She's sleeping with us.
But she stayed though the whole time. She hasn't gone up and left. You know what I'm saying? That's something.
She's very happy to stay next to me and just sleep. You know what? I would tell myself 20 years ago, track my business better. Nobody told me 20 years ago, use a CRM. Mm-hmm. Nobody told me, track your business, track every client you meet and stay in touch. He was just winging it, showing rentals in the village, people I meet on Craigslist, and make as much money as I can. If I had started tracking 20 years ago and not 12 years ago.
What do you mean tracking? You mean the clients, or your
CRMs, everything, everyone we meet. But now everyone I meet is
build dashboards. Just build dashboards.
Yes. Build your database from day one, from the first ever rental and deal you have, and stay in touch with those people. Right. If I had done that 20 years ago, I probably would have doubled.
This is what I think AI, from an agent perspective, AI can be so good. You could take your database, your network, especially if it's buyers and sellers, and you can put it in there and you can ask it to come up with an engagement schedule. Right. How can I reach out to my buyers? How can I reach out to my sellers? Give me some topics, give me a cadence, give me a whole schedule, like a whole 6-month outreach. How do I track it? And it will help you do all these things. Right. And you're right. If you don't have visible dashboards of your business or what's growing or what's not growing or what's working or what's not working, you're just kind of going around in circles and you're not really progressing anywhere. Johnny and I know a little bit about that, trust me, but awareness is one thing. Doing it is another thing. What am I right, Johnny?
I mean, I don't want to say flying blind, but there's certainly an awareness of the ground below us. Yeah.
Absolutely. The transparency and visibility and all that kind of stuff is critical. And I'm so glad you said that, because one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was transacting from 2005 on to about maybe 2013 is I did not do any of that. And I must have, I'm years and years and thousands of people that I could have been engaging, and then they could have been recommending to people there. It's like a multiplier effect. I had none of that compounding growth going on. It was just the biggest mistake I made. So you're right. Cool. We're at the end. Thank you to Daniel Kramp for the time. You are awesome. I appreciate all this insight. Thank you to John Walkup. I am Noah Rosenblatt. This has been Talking Manhattan, and we will catch you guys next time. Cheers, everybody.